Are you ready for a wake-up call? Well, in today's session, we're going to take a deep dive into some of the challenges and issues that can occur with each of the respective Enneagram types. And I always encourage everyone to lean into your respective strengths. But just remember, we all have vulnerabilities. And as we become more self-aware and observant, we can step back, become less reactive, and more apt to lean towards the healthier aspects of who we are. Now, at our optimum, we take all of the traits of the Enneagram personality types and we incorporate those strengths into our day-to-day affairs. But identity is really this story we tell ourselves, and personality is this expression. So you want to make sure that the expression of who you are and who you believe you are comes through at its very best. And this is going to help you and your team at work, and also help you personally in your home life as well. So let's start with type 1. Type 1 is the reformer, the perfectionist, as it's sometimes called. And you really want to get everything right. You want to improve things. You have this very idealized version of how you want to see and operate. And you want everybody to get on board with this. But in your effort to do so, sometimes you can be rather critical or judgmental. Not everybody is trying to improve things at the high level that you have in mind, perhaps, or achieve the same standards of accuracy and perfection. Also, watch your tendency to be a bit rigid. This can hold you back and make you a little bit closed-minded to other people's ways of operating and doing things. So just keep an open mind, and don't feel like you have to fix everything on your own. It's okay to allow other people to help, to solicit other points of view, and to just go with the flow a little bit more. Because you don't want to end up angry. You don't want to end up resentful. And sometimes the one can be upset or angry if things are not improving, if things are not accurate, if things are not going in the ideal direction that you have in mind. So just bear that in mind and lean into the best version of you, which is helping the team move towards high standards of excellence, doing things accurately, which can be extremely important, especially as it relates to any kind of data analysis, for instance, and really trying to make things better because you are the great reformer. If you are the 2, you are the giver-helper. And as the giver-helper, sometimes you ignore your own emotional and physical needs. You can be so caught up in giving and being generous and helping others that you don't take care of the day-to-day things that are required in life. And your own business of life matters get sidelined. But you're great at helping everybody else with all of their stuff. Also, watch the fact that in your effort to help others, sometimes you can be a little bit intrusive and not establish clear boundaries. You may be so keen to advise other people and help other people that you create dependencies with others and then end up feeling resentful when they do depend on you. So watch those tendencies. Watch that tendency to really overextend yourself and accommodate yourself to other people. Because in the end, you can end up being rather prideful. You can feel like you're the only one that can make the difference. You're the only one that can help this person. You're the only one that is going to make it a-okay. So just remember, you're not indispensable, and you need to do what's right for yourself. And in doing so, and by being responsible for yourself, you'll also be responsible for the people around you, and you'll help build a better team environment. For the achiever, number three, you are the great performer and achiever. You are so ambitious and raring to go and get things done, but you may be a little preoccupied with a need for approval. And sometimes, in that need for approval, you become very image conscious. You want to just look right. You want to do everything the right way. You want the team to stand out. But you can be a little inattentive to feelings and relationships because you're more output oriented versus people oriented. So really watch that competitive aspect of yourself and realize everyone is trying to make a contribution. Everyone wants attention. Everyone wants to attain some level of recognition. And be seen and be heard. So really watch, that tendency, and also be really authentic. Be true to yourself. Don't fall into any form of self-deceit, and put up a false front in your effort to get things done and move everything forward and please the crowd. Because sometimes that can happen with the achiever, who is also known for also being very authentic, but the unhealthy aspect of that is actually to be inauthentic and to be, self-deceitful. So those are things to watch. But keep things moving. You are the great mover and shaker. You get a lot of things done. Keep the team focused on action. But if things are not feeling right, ask questions. Hey, how are you guys feeling? What are you thinking? I'm getting the sense that everybody's not on board with my ideas. Make sure that you have buy-in. If you are the four, you're the individualist, the romantic. And your wake up is you can sometimes really get fixated on a specific emotion. You go over and over and over it again. You ruminate over that emotion, and you can become extremely self-absorbed, very dramatic, melancholy, moody, and self-conscious, and become very dissatisfied. Because you tend to look for what is missing, you look for what is defective, what is not going right, and then you're yearning for that. So do not distort your feelings and ideas through your imagination. Your imagination is there to serve you as a creative individualist, but you do not want to over-intensify feelings to a point where you ruminate and cannot get past them. So watch that, and also watch envy. Sometimes you tend to think everybody has it easier than you. Everything flows better for you. Everybody feels included except you. So work on trying to include yourself. Work on trying to share your ideas with others. And really don't be an outsider in an intentional way. You're going to stand out just by virtue of being an individualist. So no need to intensify that any deeper. If you are the five, you are the observer or investigator. And your wake up is to really watch your tendency to isolate or detach yourself from other people. Sometimes you can be a bit remote. People will see you as being distant and withholding. So don't withhold your ideas. Don't withhold your feelings. Move them forward. Sometimes you can be very reserved or not share with others, and that can irk people a little bit. They want to figure out who you are and what you're thinking. They also want you to be assertive, and sometimes the observer can be a little bit more reserved and non-assertive. Um, you have a tendency also to be frugal. And I mean frugality in the best sense of the word. You can be conservative with your time and energy. So you know how to conserve yourself, but sometimes people are going to see that as withholding or detachment. So really watch that. And don't withdraw into that private world. You have all those concepts and ideas that you've been researching and ideas that really preoccupy you. But really realize that people want your collegial friendship. They want that connection with the team. And they need your ability to analyze and investigate and research and share the knowledge that you are so good at developing. Now, if you are the 6, you are the loyalist. And the loyalists can sometimes imagine problems where they don't even exist. Because you tend to be either risk averse or highly risk taking, you can also maybe get out of whack and not take any risk at all or take too high of a risk. You can sometimes be a bit defensive too, and doubtful and way too skeptical, to a point where people feel like you're challenging them, you're investigating them, you're asking them too many questions, and they start to feel like they're being blamed for something that they did not even do. You may even start to complain in order to test the commitment with the team or in relationships. So watch that fear and temptation, to pry too much or make people feel like they're on the line with you. And then also, sometimes, you rely on authority figures a little bit too much or belief systems that are outside of yourself. So make sure that you question. You are very good at that, and there is no need not to be a little bit skeptical there when it comes to belief systems or ideas and authority figures. But be careful with your supervisor because they will pick up on that. And you do not want to create a rift with people on your team or with people in a supervisory capacity working with you. They are there to help you and mentor you and guide you. If you are the 7, you are the enthusiast. And so you are on the great life adventure. And so you may tend to start things and not finish them because you get bored very quickly. So watch that tendency to be very impulsive. But most importantly, I'd like you as a 7 to really watch your tendency to avoid painful situations or emotions. If you feel like something's off kilter in the team, ask questions how people are feeling, what they're thinking. Because you want to be on that joyride. You want things to have everything be happy and enjoyable, but sometimes you need to lean into the pain and figure out what is going on. So look at your tendency to be futuristic rather than being in the present, insisting that others meet your demands. Watch your appetite for more and more and more in an effort to satisfy yourself and lead to meaningless distractions. But really remember that one of the main wake-ups for the enthusiast is that avoidance of painful situations and conflict. If you are the 8, the challenger, your wake-up is that you may be overly forceful or too intense. I'd also even like to include the word dismissive, because for the challenger, your tendency is to be pretty heavy-handed, intimidating, commanding, and very decisive. And those can be really great qualities. But it can lead you to become upset with people if they're showing their vulnerabilities. You may want to push to get things done before everybody's ready to make that happen. And there may be a tendency for intensity that people are just really not used to, and it may really take people aback. Um, it's okay for the 8 to show some vulnerability, to evidence your own weaknesses or frailties, and to step back and slow things down and lower the temperature a bit. So really watch those tendencies to be a little bit too forceful or too intense and to dominate the situation too much. If you are the peacemaker, the 9, your wake up is really to avoid issues and become potentially passive aggressive. And I know peacemakers never like to see themselves as being passive aggressive, but because you're trying to avoid conflict, you may get into that habit of doing some things very passively that are actually quite aggressive, potentially subversive. You also can be a little stubborn or indecisive, and you may lack a clear level of intensity. And so people don't really know what you're expressing when you're expressing yourself. You may kind of have a flat affect because you're not trying to upset the apple cart. You're very accommodating, like the giver helper. So watch that tendency to over accommodate and watch those boundaries. And then really check out that passive aggressive, subversive tendency, or that unwillingness to apply an awareness to your own personal growth. Because you are the peacemaker, you may take a certain level of pride in being at peace all the time, but that can be a shroud for you really looking within at yourself, and some of your own potential vulnerabilities. So, in wrapping it up, once again, I want to encourage everyone to employ that methodology when you feel yourself kind of moving into a vulnerability. Rather than react, just let yourself take a couple of deep breaths and observe what's going on. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Just step back. It's okay. The other day, I was at the post office, big long line. There's not enough distance. There was way too many people in the lobby. I just asked the person behind me, I said, I'm going to step outside. I just feel really uncomfortable. And I did, and it was fine. And then he let me take my place back in line. But I could feel like my intensity threshold was rising. And I was definitely getting testy, to the point where I might have said something to someone that was really not kind or appropriate. So we all have these thresholds. We all have these tipping points. But if we can learn just to take some deep breaths, step back, and observe what we're feeling, and then figure out the best way forward, that will really help you navigate at work and build a much more successful team. And remember the strength that every single team member brings to the table. And don't chide people or put them down for once in a while, evidencing some of their vulnerabilities of their respective personality type. We all have off days. The benefit of the Enneagram is that it allows us to learn more about ourselves, learn more about others, so that we can be more empathic, we can be more compassionate, we can be more patient with one another, and we can gain the benefits of all of the greatest strengths from each of the respective Enneagram personality types. And also lean into some of those strengths ourselves, because we have our wings, we have our stress points and our health points, our arrows, and all of those things are uncovered as you explore more of the Enneagram. So in wrapping up, I just want to thank all of you for following, liking, subscribing. But I also want to encourage you to check out apertureadvisory.com, my website. I do offer personal advisory and coaching sessions, as well as staff training workshops on the Enneagram and other topics. I primarily work with private schools and nonprofits, but I also work with some businesses. And I would be more than pleased to assist you with a variety of different projects and processes or training sessions. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. And always remember, your focus determines your reality, as stated by the great George Lucas. Open your aperture, be open-minded, keep your focus open so that you can step back and make good decisions and choices. And that's what it's all about. Thank you again.